a examination crash course. It was 2 days long, Saturday and Sunday, and they suggested that you take the course the weekend before your actual examination date. It was an 8-hour-a-day course, and you had to log in live, or you can take it in person. I obviously decided to take it on Zoom or whatever they use for their platform so that I didn't have to go inside the classroom with all of these different people and be potentially exposed to COVID. So it was actually really nice. I really highly suggest you guys do the online version because I was able to take my camera off and kind of like walk around the house, go to the restroom if I needed to, you know, drink my water, etc., write notes, be in my jammies. So that was a huge benefit. And for the crash course, I believe I paid either $150 or $250. I'll go ahead and leave that link below, but it was a great course and I really suggest it for everyone. It was called Real Estate Trainers. And I've actually personally have suggested this course to a few friends and clients of mine as well, who are also preparing for the real estate exam. After I took my online course, I went in and I took the test, and it was so great. In the crash course, they gave you a printout. It was about 55 pages long, but it was for you to follow along in the class and write in your notes and your answers. At the end of the course, they suggested that I review that packet 3 times before I walk into the classroom to take the test. Along with that, I made sure as soon as I went into the class, you have to go with nothing, by the way. Like, they actually look into your sleeves, they look into your jacket, they ask you to flip your mask so that they can make sure that you don't have cheating tools or microphones or whatever. It is a pretty hefty test. I mean, it was not a simple test at all. It was 150 questions and you had to pass with 70%. And I believe the passing rate on this California real estate exam is in the high 40 percentile. So that means that more than half fail this test. So that was nerve-wracking, but you know, I just made sure I practiced and I made sure I studied as much as I could. The Real Estate Trainers online crash course is so thorough. They had like 6 master exams, I think 100 questions, 150 questions long, that mirrored the actual exam. And I definitely actually feel those questions from Real Estate Trainers was much more in line with the questions and the course from Allied Online School. Honestly, they were both great prep courses for the state test. So I do recommend both to everyone that I know, including you guys out there. So went in, took the test, they checked everything. You can't have anything on you, and they give you a little cubby for your keys and your cell phone. I didn't know that the test started before 8:30. It actually did start before 8:30 because I walked in right at like 8:29, just so I could be super on time and so that I was making sure I utilized every minute before the exam to prep. But by the time I got in, everyone that I had seen walk through that door was already sitting and taking their test. So perhaps they start letting people take it earlier, like at 8:15 or 8 o'clock or so. Get there a little bit earlier if you want to maximize the time that you'll need to take the exam. They give you 3 hours to take it. And again, there's 150 questions and you need to pass by 70%. So I sat down at my table. I sat very close to the front. There were 3 proctors, one behind this wall with a little like opening window where they were actually able to look at you, and 2 proctors that were walking around and watching over you. I was a nervous wreck. I was like fidgeting my leg, I was shaking my leg, I was like rearranging the way I was sitting, and then, you know, it was just awful. I'm so glad no one was sitting next to me because they probably would have lost their mind. What? But in my nervous abyss, I accidentally kicked the computer screen with my foot, and I was already in triple digits by this point. I was at question 103 or something, and all of a sudden the screen went black and I started freaking out, and I was like, do not tell me those 100 questions were all to shit, because I was like nervously rushing through it. So some of the strategies that I used was to skip the questions that I didn't know off the bat, you know, and then I marked it in a column with 1 check for I don't know and 2 checks for like I definitely don't know. And I also, on the whiteboard, I did write certain numbers, like how many feet are in a mile and then how many square feet are in an acre. There was just 2 or 3 sets of numbers that I felt like were going to come up in the exam and that I needed to know the exact number. So I made sure I said it over and over in my head before I walked in, and I wrote it on the whiteboard. So along with that and my 2 columns of questions, questionable questions. Again, I was at question 103, kicked the TV or the monitor, and it went black. And I started freaking out. I was like raising my hand, like, you know, for the proctor to come help me. And then suddenly the screen came on again. And I was like, oh, it's okay, you know, forget it. So she comes over and she looks down at the screen and she was like, don't hit the screen. It's gonna turn off. And I was like, okay, thank you. You know, I'm trying to be extra quiet, which was funny in retrospect, but it was nerve-wracking in the moment. I got through those questions, all 150, and I had probably about over 25 questions that I wasn't certain about. So to give you a little recap about my personal test, all of my questions that I had were like novels. They were like 5 to 7 sentences each, and it was awful. I could not get through it with the life of me, but I was just trying to stay focused, trying. I hardly got any questions with math, and I was totally freaking out because a lot of the questions, practice questions, had a lot of math involved, where it would be like 4 different math equations you would have to do in order to get to the final answer. Luckily, no. I really didn't get a single one. I didn't bust out my calculator whatsoever. Sorry, they also give you a calculator to use that is on the table next to the monitor. So I didn't use my calculator not once, which was such a relief because I was really nervous about that. But instead I got all these questions that were super long and thick, which also makes me very nervous. It was okay, I got through it, definitely revised most of the questions that I had answered. I finished it in about an hour and a half. So in half the time that was allotted, I finished. And I was one of the first 10 people to finish. I wasn't trying to like pay attention to the people that were walking out because I felt like that would have been very distracting. But I did take note of like, you know, the few people that did walk up and walk out. So after I got my keys, they had me waiting on the side in that same reception area, and they printed out my form, and then the guy hands it to me. He's like smirking at me and he's like, don't open this until you leave the building. And I was like, okay, so I don't cry my eyes out, distract everyone that's taking a test. Sure. So I did. I tucked that paper into my pocket so I wouldn't be tempted to open it. Took the elevator downstairs, stepped outside. The second I stepped aside, took it out, ripped it open and said, congratulations, Sandy Tran, you passed your exam. Gave me my real estate number and everything. So it was such a relief, and I'm pretty sure I started crying because I was so stressed out and sleep deprived. But it was so great. I passed the test and I called my sorority sister, who's a realtor, who was actually the one that really encouraged me to get into this business. Told her, and then I called my best friend, whose house I was gonna go to after to celebrate with her and visit the kiddos. So it was such a great experience. I really hope that everyone has as positive of an experience as I did. There are hiccups along the road. Do not expect it to be completely seamless and flawless. That's life. You know, life is full of hiccups. You know, from not realizing that you cannot study effectively to knocking down computers and breaking it almost and possibly losing all the answers that you inputted. But you know what? Made it through, and I'm so glad that I did. If there's anything I can share with you along this journey is to just keep on moving forward, you know, like just do one step at a time, like study till, you know, set yourself a goal. I wanted to do 3 chapters a week, so I did, you know, and I finished it in a timely manner. I made sure that I had my resources in place in order to know that I was going to pass it, like getting the crash course set up. That was really important. I definitely don't think I would have passed without the crash course. The way the instructor taught us all of the material condensed into 2 days, it was so effective. And he used different stories and scenarios in order to give examples of these scenarios. So all of these stories really stuck in my mind when I was taking the test. And that's when I was able to identify the correct answer from remembering his story about, you know, this certain terminology or that certain terminology or this situation or that situation. So it was really, really good. I definitely suggest you guys take the crash course. Real Estate Trainers, the link is below. Again, if you guys had a similar experience, I definitely want to hear about it. I don't want to be the only one on earth that had such a crazy experience getting their license exam, test date, and then passing it. And if you guys haven't passed it the first time, I want to hear about that too. You know, what are problems that you guys are experiencing? What stumped you in the real estate exam? And perhaps we can build a community and share so that we can all benefit and pass it together. That was something else I did too. I looked up on YouTube so many people that took this test and how they got through it. Research is gold, guys, and YouTube is gold. So do your research, put your comment below, ask me questions, and I am all ears and open to share as much as I could. And as always, stay grateful.